harder than everyone. I'm gonna run further than everyone. I'm gonna hit the bags longer than everyone. I did what I could every single time.
What hooked you in?
Hitting that big bag, boom, 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 because I was thinking about my brother Roger. I always want to beat him.
And he could fight too, by the way.
Oh, he could fight. He was better than I was. That's why I was hitting the bag. And I was boom, 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 boom.
How good was Sugar Ray Leonard? That is the question that kept coming up every single time the greatest fighters in boxing history were asked about him.
I am who I am because of boxing.
Some people called him flashy, some said he was a runner, others whispered he was more business than brutality, more showman than savage.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
But when you listen to what the actual killer said, when you hear from the men who stepped into the ring with him, a completely different story emerges.
And they call me Papa, so they look at me fighting, and then they look at me and say, that's not the same guy.
The quiet respect from legends like Muhammad Ali, Roberto Duran, Thomas Hearns, and Marvin Hagler tells you everything. So what did the toughest men in boxing say when his name came up? If you are enjoying this breakdown, tap the hype feature right now and give this video some hype so more boxing fans see it. To understand Sugar Ray Leonard, you have to understand the void he filled. Muhammad Ali was fading. The 1970s were over. Boxing needed a successor, not just a champion, but a personality who could carry the sport into the television age. Ali, who usually kept his praise locked tight when discussing younger fighters who might threaten his legacy, actually lowered his guard when talking about Leonard. Ali saw something in the young fighter that reminded him of himself. He said Leonard reminded him of himself, and this was not about hand speed or the Ali shuffle. This was about something much deeper. Ali recognized that Leonard understood the theater of boxing. When Leonard engaged the crowd, leading them to cheer using showbiz tactics in the ring, Ali saw the continuation of his own legacy. A fighter who understood that the crowd was the weapon to be wielded as skillfully as a jab. Ali identified Leonard as the future not just because of athletic potential, but because Leonard embodied the evolution of the athlete celebrity. Ali saw a fighter who possessed a wonderful sense of timing that allowed him to gauge the tempo of a fight without expending unnecessary energy. This timing extended beyond the physical. Ali noted Leonard's ability to time the crowd itself. In the middle of a violent exchange, Leonard could pause, posture, or flurry specifically to incite a reaction from the audience. This ability to manipulate the energy of the arena, to turn a quiet moment into a crescendo of support, was something Ali pioneered. By recognizing it in Leonard, Ali was validating Leonard's psychological command of the sport. He saw a man who could squeeze the vice on an opponent, not just with punches, but with the pressure of the moment itself. Beyond the personality, Ali respected the mechanics of Leonard's game. Ali praised Leonard's timing, speed, reflexes, and rhythm. He noted that Leonard's body was beautiful for the sport. Ali's analysis touched on the concept of dancing. To Ali, movement was life. He saw in Leonard's movement a refinement of his own style, a way to be elusive without sacrificing offense. Leonard took the Ali shuffle and codified it into a scoring system. Where Ali used it to bewilder, Leonard used it to punctuate combinations, often stealing rounds with flurry finishes that left a lasting impression on judges and fans alike. Ali's recognition of this geometry in the ring suggests he viewed Leonard as a prodigy who had learned the lessons of the heavyweight master and applied them to a faster, lighter frame. Ali's comments about Leonard representing the future suggest a foresight into the changing economics of boxing. Ali fought for pride, for politics, and for money. Leonard, observing Ali's physical decline, fought with a sharper eye on the future preservation of his health and wealth. Ali seemed to respect this evolution, seeing in Leonard a fighter who could achieve the same heights of fame but perhaps navigate the treacherous waters of the sport with more calculation. Number 10. Larry Holmes was the heavyweight king of the era. Holmes and Leonard were twin pillars of boxing in the post-Ali age. Holmes held the prestigious heavyweight title, and Leonard carried the popular appeal and charisma that made the sport matter to mainstream audiences. Holmes recognized Leonard as the household name keeping boxing alive during a critical transition period. Holmes viewed Leonard as a peer in greatness, a fellow survivor who helped transition the sport into a new golden age. Both men worked in the shadow of Ali, navigating the expectations and comparisons that came with that burden. Holmes was often resented for beating Ali in the ring, seen as diminishing the legend. Leonard, by contrast, was embraced as Ali's spiritual successor because he embodied the qualities Ali represented. This difference mattered enormously. Holmes's respect for Leonard is implicit in his acknowledgement of the golden age they built together, a time when boxing was alive and thriving because of their collective excellence and their willingness to fight the best. Holmes understood that Leonard's star power complemented his own heavyweight dominance. Together, they made boxing matter across weight classes. Neither could have built that era alone. This mutual respect between two titans speaks volumes about Leonard's character and the respect he earned by existing at the highest level. Number 9. Aaron. The Hawk Pryor represents the what-if of Leonard's career. Pryor, a frantic and terrifying force at junior welterweight, often felt avoided by Leonard. His comments often reflect a belief that Leonard was too smart to take a fight with him. While tinged with the bitterness of a missed payday, this is an admission of Leonard's business intelligence. Pryor acknowledged that Leonard and his team carefully curated his career to maximize reward while managing risk. To Pryor, Leonard was the golden boy who knew how to protect his status. This too-smart critique acknowledges Leonard's mastery of the business of boxing, a trait that became the blueprint for future stars like Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather Jr. Pryor respected the fact that Leonard did not engage in fights that did not make business sense, even if it frustrated him personally. Number 8. Donnie Lalonde fought Leonard in 1988 for the super middleweight and light heavyweight titles. Lalonde highlights Leonard's ability to stay one step ahead of every opponent. Even against a physically larger opponent like Lalonde, Leonard controlled the geography of the ring with precision and intelligence. Lalonde's perspective emphasizes Leonard's focus and strategic superiority. Despite being knocked down early in their fight, Leonard's mental fortitude allowed him to regroup and brutally stop Lalonde. Lalonde recognized that Leonard's strategy was superior to his own. Leonard knew exactly when to trade and when to move, managing the timing of the fight to ensure he had the energy for the finish. The step-ahead comment suggests that Leonard was fighting on a different timeline, anticipating Lalonde's moves before they were even fully committed. Lalonde acknowledges that Leonard's ability to execute a game plan, even under duress and against size disadvantages, was the mark of a true great and a fighter operating at the highest level. Number 7. Ray Boom. Boom Mancini, a fighter known for his high-energy, aggressive style, offers a reflection on Leonard that focuses on the man outside the ring. Mancini marvels at Leonard's calm and composure in retirement. To Mancini, Leonard is the exemplar of the healthiest retired boxer, a man who survived the wars with his faculties and intelligence intact. Mancini describes Leonard as very articulate and surprisingly sharp, noting the stark contrast between the former killer in the ring and the eloquent statesman outside of it. This insight reflects a deep respect for Leonard's defensive responsibility and his commitment to protecting himself. Fighters know the physical toll of the sport better than anyone who has not lived it. For Mancini, seeing Leonard calm and coherent in his later years is the ultimate victory in the game of boxing. It validates the fundamental idea that a fighter can be great and smart enough to preserve himself. Mancini sees Leonard as the good son of boxing, the one who played the game right, made his money wisely, and got out eventually with his mind intact and his legacy secure. That is the mark of true greatness. Number 6. Floyd Mayweather Sr. fought Leonard in 1978 before becoming a legendary trainer and coach. Mayweather Sr. holds a unique position as both a former opponent and a teacher of the sport. His insights are technically dense and profound. He serves as a bridge between Leonard's era and the modern dominance of his son, Floyd Mayweather Jr. Mayweather Sr. describes Leonard as a mental magician who puts opponents in a trance-like state. This is a fascinating description of Leonard's rhythm manipulation. Sr. explains that Leonard did not just throw punches. He issued subtle mental commands that forced opponents to react in predictable ways, which Leonard would then exploit. By feinting and shifting his weight, Leonard controlled the opponent's neurological state, freezing them or forcing a mistake. Despite claiming he could have beaten Leonard if not for a hand injury, Mayweather Sr. consistently uses Leonard as a benchmark for greatness. He points to Leonard's ability to negate a brawler's weapons and punish mistakes as the ultimate example of the sweet science. When Mayweather Sr. says that Sugar Ray Leonard did face Floyd Sr. and it was not close, he is acknowledging the gap in class that existed. Using Leonard's dominance dominance to illustrate the level required to be a champion. Mayweather Sr. credits Leonard with having superior ring IQ. He uses Leonard's performance against Duran in the second fight as a case study for his students. This illustrates how a fighter with a better variety of boxing skills can triumph over a bigger puncher. In this way, Mayweather Sr. canonizes Leonard as the prototype for the style he would later perfect with his son, the defensive, counterpunching genius who hits without getting hit. Number 5. Wilfred Benitez, the youngest champion in boxing history and a defensive genius known as El Radar, engaged in a tactical staring contest with Leonard in 1979. Benitez's approach to Leonard was built on patience and high-level skill. He recognized that to fight Leonard was to fight a mirror image of technical perfection. The chess match descriptor applies here as well. Benitez respected Leonard's ability to operate at a high strategic level that few fighters could match. Unlike Duran, who sought to overwhelm with aggression, or Hearns, who sought to destroy from a distance, Benitez sought to outthink and outmaneuver. His failure to do so, losing by TKO in the final seconds of the 15th round, only validated Leonard's standing and defensive mastery. Benitez viewed Leonard as one of the few fighters who could match his own ring IEQ, a sentiment echoed by boxing analysts who place both men at the pinnacle of defensive skill in their era. Benitez recognized that Leonard possessed a unique patience of his own that matched his own deliberate style. Leonard did not rush in to be countered. He waited, probed, and eventually solved the puzzle of the radar. This mutual recognition of skill and patience places Leonard in the elite tier of defensive technicians who shaped boxing history, proving he was not just an offensive dynamo, but a complete fighter capable of dismantling a defensive master at his own game and game plan. Number 4. Marvelous Marvin Hagler's relationship with Leonard is perhaps the most contentious and complex of the Four Kings era. Hagler, the blue-collar warrior who felt he had to kill to get a draw, viewed Leonard as the media darling who was gifted premium opportunities. Yet the aftermath of their 1987 super fight reveals a deep, albeit frustrated, professional respect that transcends their disagreement. Hagler spoke of the silence that follows a great battle. While he vehemently disagreed with the decision, believing he won the fight, he respected Leonard's ability to steal the perception of the fight in the judges' minds. Hagler noted that Leonard ran like a rabbit, but also acknowledged the flashy tricks Leonard used to sway the judges. In boxing, this is a backhanded compliment of the highest order, an admission that Leonard understood the game of professional boxing better than anyone else in that era. Leonard knew that flurries in the last 30 seconds of a round weighed more heavily on the judges' minds than 3 minutes of steady pressure. Hagler's resentment was fueled by Leonard's intelligence regarding the timing of the fight. Leonard waited until Hagler had slowed down, observing signs of aging in Hagler's fight against John Mugabe, before agreeing to the bout. This strategic waiting game was a masterstroke that Hagler, in his frustration, recognized as smart business, even if he despised the manipulation. The silent snippet also alludes to the quiet understanding between the two men in later years, a shared knowledge that they had engaged in one of the sport's most lucrative and discussed events in history. Leonard's ability to endure Hagler's power and finish strong flurries cemented his status as a real middleweight in the eyes of the public. Hagler essentially admitted that Leonard's flashy tricks were a form of supreme skill, a way of controlling the narrative of the fight in real time and shaping how judges perceived the action. Number 3. Thomas the Hitman Hearns was the executioner, a freak of nature with the height of a heavyweight and the speed of a welterweight. Yet when Hearns speaks of Leonard, the terminology shifts completely from violence to strategy and intellectual combat. Hearns famously described fighting Leonard as a chess match. This quote is pivotal and essential to understanding Leonard's legacy. It elevates their rivalry from a physical confrontation to an intellectual struggle where bodies mattered less than brains. Hearns, with his freakish reach and devastating power, was accustomed to physical dominance over every opponent he faced. Against Leonard, he found an opponent who could compute variables in real time and adjust mid-fight. Hearns acknowledged that Leonard figured him out. In their legendary 1981 unification bout, Hearns was leading on the scorecards, boxing beautifully and utilizing his superior reach to frustrate Leonard. However, Leonard, sensing the urgency urged by his cornerman Angelo Dundee, shifted gears from boxer to puncher. Hearns' reflection that we put on a great show for them indicates a recognition of their joint role in creating history. He viewed Leonard not just as an enemy, but as a partner in a thrilling war of give and take where both men elevated the sport. The chess match analogy also implies a mutual respect for the mental preparation required to face Leonard at the highest level. Hearns realized that beating Leonard was not about landing one single punch or combination. It was about navigating a labyrinth of traps, feints, and adjustments. Leonard's ability to take it from him in the later rounds of their first fight demonstrated a resilience that Hearns, despite his own immense heart, had to respect. Hearns realized that Leonard was the only fighter who could force him to alter his entire game plan so drastically, turning the hitman into a boxer and the boxer into a slugger. This adaptability is what Hearns respected most, recognizing Leonard as the smartest fighter he ever faced. Number 2. Roberto Duran, Manos de Piedra or Hands of Stone, represents the primal, chaotic force of boxing. His relationship with Leonard is defined by the stark dichotomy of their two encounters in 1980. The brawl in Montreal and the infamous No Mas in New Orleans. Duran's reflections on Leonard are layered with the complexity of a man who conquered a god, only to be psychologically dismantled by him months later. Duran has admitted in moments of candor that pierce his machismo that Leonard was the best he had fought. This admission is significant coming from a man who shared the ring with Hagler and Hearns. Duran respected Leonard's intelligence, noting that the second fight showed that Leonard is a smarter fighter, if not the better one. This distinction between better and smarter is crucial and reveals the depth of Duran's analysis. Duran likely believed himself to be the better fighter in a pure, visceral sense, but he conceded that Leonard's intellect allowed him to manipulate the conditions of combat to his advantage. The humiliation Duran felt during the Nomas fight, where Leonard taunted him with the Ali shuffle, windmilled his arm for mock bolo punches, and stuck his chin out, was not just physical but existential and devastating. Leonard did not just beat Duran, he embarrassed him in front of the world. Duran confessed, "I was pissed and humiliated." You do not do that to a guy. This speaks directly to Leonard's understanding of psychological warfare and mental dominance. He knew that to beat Duran, he had to break Duran's pride and his will to continue. He knew that Duran's greatest strength was his aggressive confidence, and Leonard exploited that by making Duran look foolish. However, Duran also offers a nuanced critique of Leonard's toughness that deserves consideration. He often scoffed at the idea that Leonard hurt him physically, maintaining that while Leonard was good, he was not just brute force. Duran's perspective highlights the clash of philosophies between two completely different fighters. Duran, the street fighter who revered toughness and aggression, versus Leonard, the artist who revered control and finesse. Yet the enduring friendship between the two in their later years suggests that Duran eventually made peace with the fact that Leonard's artistry was simply a different, perhaps more sustainable form of toughness. The silence that Duran often falls into when discussing the No Mas incident is, in itself, a loud testament to the effectiveness of Leonard's psychological strategy and the depth of his victory. Number 1. Muhammad Ali was the first legendary figure to truly recognize Leonard's greatness. Ali was fading in the late 1970s as his physical capabilities began their tragic decline. The boxing world was desperate for a successor, not just a champion, but a personality capable of carrying the sport into the television age. The relationship between Ali and Leonard was profound. It was not merely a passing of the torch, but a recognition of shared DNA. Ali, usually reticent to praise those who might encroach upon his claim as the greatest, often lowered his guard when discussing Leonard, revealing a genuine admiration for the young fighter's capacity to captivate and control. Ali observed in Leonard the same rare alchemy that he himself possessed, the ability to merge supreme athletic grace with the showmanship required to lead the crowd. In various interviews, Ali noted that Leonard reminded him of himself. This comparison went far beyond the superficial similarities of hand speed or the Ali shuffle. Ali recognized that Leonard understood the theater of boxing. When Leonard engaged the audience, leading them in cheers or utilizing showbiz tactics in the ring, Ali saw the continuation of his own legacy, a fighter who understood that the crowd was a weapon to be wielded as deftly as a jab. The insight here is deep and multi-layered. Ali identified Leonard as the future not just because of his athletic potential, but because Leonard embodied the evolution of the athlete celebrity. Ali saw a fighter who, like himself, perhaps did not like practice in the traditional traditional, drudging sense of the word, but who possessed a wonderful sense of timing that allowed him to gauge the tempo of a fight without expending unnecessary energy. This efficiency, this timing, was the hallmark of a master who knew that what happened in the past was irrelevant compared to the immediate future of the bout. This understanding of the fight's narrative and momentum gave Leonard an advantage most fighters never fully grasped or developed.
5 years ago. It's challenging, especially now because, you know, the social media, the technology. I mean, our kids are able to learn more, see more, experience more. And I try to still, but then again, I'm not as firm as my wife. A lot stronger than I am, because she'll say something and she means it. I'll kind of, Daniel, it's 3:00 in the morning. You should be, But I have great kids. I knock on wood. I have great kids. I just want to be better. And then I criticize myself because I'm not a better father than the other guy or the other guy. I can't do that. I shouldn't do that. I know that.
This is interesting. Our kids are from us, but they're not of us. They're going to go places we can never go, and that's the future. That's our ego wanting our kid to be like us. Why would my kid want to be like me, thinking about himself all day, looking at himself in the mirror, thinking he's the best in everything, thinking every woman wants him, thinking he's God? Why would I want him to have a megalomania like me? Why would I want him to be like that? Let him be who he is. But it's my ego I want to control. We still want to control everything.
Control, yes.
Insecurity. I'm scared he might humiliate my name.
Yeah, insecurity.
He got to live his life.
Ray, what does it mean?
He might be gay and somebody might be holding him back. He might be afraid to say it because who my father might be.
Yeah.
And he might hurt himself.
I get it.
Do it, be who you are. I had to be who I am. Even if you don't like who I am, this is who I had to be who I am, pretty much,
Yeah.
That's why I love my kids so much. Even though when they do ridiculous things, you still have to love them. But they know I'm not an easy father to fuck with. I'm just a hard guy when it comes to that. That's just who I am if there wasn't my kids,
But see, they tell me stuff. My kids tell me stuff because they know I'm not that aggressive. I'm not that tough. I don't look that tough. And I don't. They come to me, but then again, they also understand the fact that I give them benefit of the doubt. I'm not firm. Maybe I should be, but this is who I am. This is who I am.
What does it mean to both you guys? Ray, you could start, but what does it mean to be a good father or to be a better father?
I want to be a better father. I mean, the best father, there is no best father. I'm going to be a better father. And I try. I pray. And I talk to my friends. I talk to everyone. And like I'm on the plane, I'm leaving town tomorrow. So on the plane, I know fully well that the passenger sitting beside me, we're going to talk about something about the kids. And I heed their advice sometimes. But life is what you make it, man. And it's just a different generation, a different era for these.
When you synthesize the views of these 10 legendary fighters from boxing's greatest era, a coherent archetype of Sugar Ray Leonard emerges. He was not merely a boxer competing for titles and money. He was a phenomenon that altered the landscape of the entire sport. The data suggests deeper themes regarding intelligence, psychology, and the evolution of the modern athlete. A recurring theme across all testimonies is Leonard's overwhelming psychological dominance. Duran felt humiliated. Hearns felt figured out. Hagler felt manipulated by flashy tricks. Mayweather Sr. felt tranced. Leonard did not just defeat bodies, he broke wills. He used his public persona, the smile, the commercials, the charm, as a cover for a ruthless competitive drive. As Mayweather Sr. noted, he was a mental magician who controlled the psychological state of his opponents as much as the physical engagement. This implies that Leonard's greatest weapon was not his speed, but his ability to impose his reality on the fight. Ali's comments identify Leonard as the bridge. He connected the visceral, heavy-handed era of the 1970s with the speed-oriented, and media-savvy era of the 1980s and 90s. Leonard took Ali's dancing and codified it into a scoring system that allowed him to steal rounds from hard-nosed fighters like Hagler. He proved that welterweights could carry the sport, paving the way for the Four Kings era to eclipse the heavyweight division in popularity. This shift is significant. Before Leonard, the heavyweight champion was the undisputed king of sports. Leonard democratized stardom across weight classes. For technicians like Benitez and Mayweather Sr., Leonard remains the standard. His ability to fight moving backward, his hand speed, and his check hook, which decimated Mayweather Sr., are studied as canonical texts in boxing gyms. He is the reference point for ring IQ. When modern fighters are asked about perfect fighters, Leonard is invariably the name mentioned alongside Robinson and Ali because he possessed the complete package: speed, power, chin, and brains. The chess match analogy used by Hearns and Benitez underscores that fighting Leonard was an intellectual exercise as much as a physical one. Every element of his game has been studied by coaches and fighters worldwide today. His techniques remain timeless and relevant because they work. This is the ultimate testament to his genius and mastery of the sport. Ali called him the future, and the analysis of Leonard's peers confirms that he fulfilled that prophecy. He pioneered the money fighter model, fighting fewer times for higher purses, demanding ownership of his career, and retiring on his own terms. The resentment from fighters like Hagler and Pryor stems from this modernization. They were fighters of the old school, grinding out fights, while Leonard was the first modern superstar who treated boxing as a business venture. He set the template for the athlete businessman, prioritizing health and wealth over the traditional code of fighting everyone, everywhere. This business approach became the standard for future generations of boxers who learned to value their health and their finances. The research indicates that when fighters were asked about Sugar Ray Leonard, the response was a mixture of awe, envy, and profound professional respect. To Ali, he was a sun and a mirror. To Duran, he was a ghost who haunted his pride. To Hearns, he was a grandmaster worthy of the ultimate test. To Hagler, he was a thief of glory who commanded respect through skill. To Mayweather Sr., he was a textbook to be studied. To Mancini, he was proof that a fighter could be great and preserve himself. To Lalonde, he was the evidence of superior strategy. To Pryor, he was a reminder of business intelligence. To Benitez, he was a mirror of technical perfection. To Holmes, he was a peer who's built an era with him. Each of them recognized something special and true about Leonard's place in boxing. The positive angle of this entire report and analysis reveals that even the criticisms that he was too smart, too flashy, or too business-minded are in reality testaments to his greatness. He forced the fiercest men on the planet to elevate their games. He turned brawls into intellectual chess matches and prize fights into global events. These criticisms were not insults. They were descriptions of his superiority. Being too smart meant he outsmarted everyone. Being too flashy meant he understood crowd psychology. Being too business-minded meant he understood how to maximize his worth and legacy. In the final analysis, the fighter's consensus is absolutely clear and unmistakable. Sugar Ray Leonard was not just a product of the hype machine. He was the beating heart and the machine itself. A fighter of such rare timing, patience, and focus that he did not just beat his opponents. He defined the entire era they lived in. As Ray Mancini observed, seeing Leonard calm and sharp is the final proof of his victory. He fought the best, beat the best, and emerged not as a survivor, but as the king of his era. This is what makes Leonard different from every other fighter of his era. He was competing against the absolute best of his generation. The Four Kings era was the greatest period in welterweight and middleweight history because these four men pushed each other to heights that seemed impossible. When Hearns described their fight as a chess match, he was acknowledging that Leonard could think faster than other fighters could move. When Hagler admitted Leonard stole the perception of the fight with his flashy tricks, he was recognizing that Leonard understood something fundamental about professional boxing that went beyond winning rounds. Leonard knew judges watched the finish of rounds more carefully than the middle. He knew crowd reaction influences perception. He knew a well-timed flurry at the right moment could reshape how an entire round is remembered. He understood the game better than anyone else. This is the connection between all 10 fighters' perspectives. None of them were talking about a lucky fighter or a hype machine. They were giving credit to a truly great man who understood boxing at a level that most fighters never reach in their entire careers. Muhammad Ali saw himself in Leonard because Ali also understood that boxing was more than physical. Ali understood you could control the tempo tempo, the rhythm, and the psychology of a fight. Ali knew the crowd was part of the equation. Leonard took what Ali pioneered and refined it into something new. He took it further. He took it deeper. He showed the world what the future of the sport could be. The most striking thing about Leonard's career is his adaptability. Against Duran, he used psychology to break his will. Against Hearns, he boxed early, then shifted to combinations. Against Hagler, he moved and landed while making him miss. Against Lalonde and Pryor, he adjusted his strategy as needed. Technicians like Benitez and Mayweather Sr. saw a complete fighter who could solve any problem. They saw someone who studied boxing so thoroughly he could outthink anyone. Mancini's observation about Leonard being calm in later years adds dimension. Leonard won fights intelligently. He preserved himself. He did not take unnecessary damage. He fought smart, made money, and retired with his faculties intact. This revolutionary approach showed Leonard thinking beyond the immediate fight. Leonard managed his career like a businessman manages a company. He took risks when rewards justified it. He avoided fights that did not make sense. He retired when he wanted to. This is what Pryor acknowledged when he called Leonard too smart to fight him. Leonard's approach changed boxing forever. The legacy of Leonard is the bridge connecting old boxing to new. Before Leonard, the sport was dominated by heavyweights, but Leonard proved welterweights could carry the sport. The Four Kings era eclipsed the heavyweight division in popularity. After Leonard, weight class did not determine importance. Skill and the ability to create fights did. Every fighter acknowledged Leonard's greatness differently. Hagler through frustration, Benitez through respect for shared excellence, Mayweather Sr. through technical analysis, Duran through admitting Leonard was the best he fought, Mancini through health in later life, Lalonde through strategy superiority, Pryor through business intelligence, Holmes through recognizing him as a peer, Ali through calling him the future. The psychological warfare Leonard employed was strategic. Against Duran, Leonard broke his will by exploiting his pride. Against Hearns, Leonard adjusted mid-fight and shifted from boxing to combinations. Against Hagler, Leonard made flurries at the right moments to look more active to judges. This is the complete fighter. Smart, thinking, adapting, controlling, winning. These 10 legendary fighters confirmed Leonard was all of these things. He was the gold standard. He solved the post-Ali vacuum. He was the bridge between eras. He was the technical benchmark. He was the future realized. He showed that brains and business sense mattered as much as hands and heart. From being called flashy to being recognized as a genius, that was Leonard's path. From showman to master strategist, that was the journey. They did not have to praise Leonard, but they did, because they saw something transcending categories. They saw a man at the highest level. They saw boxing as mental, spiritual, business, and art. Leonard was all these things. That made him great. Like and subscribe for boxing breakdowns. Comment with who gave the best praise about Leonard.